Tehran is shaking tonight, not from a foreign missile, not from an enemy airstrike, but from explosions tearing through the heart of Iran's own nuclear program, and the shockwave from those blasts is being felt all the way from the Persian Gulf straight into the emergency briefing rooms of Washington, where senior officials are scrambling right now trying to understand what just happened and what on earth comes next. Multiple explosions have rocked facilities tied to Iran's nuclear enrichment operations. Fires are still burning. Satellite images already circulating inside intelligence circles are showing structural damage that does not match the word the Iranian government keeps using: controlled. Nothing about what these images show looks controlled. It looks like something broke, something major, something that cannot be walked back. Iran's state media ran to the cameras immediately. No radiation risk, they said. The program is safe, they said. Everything is under control. But here is the problem with that statement. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN nuclear watchdog, has lost contact with its own monitoring equipment at the affected sites. When you lose contact with the sensors designed to detect exactly this kind of event, everything is under control, stops being reassuring, and starts being terrifying, and Washington is not reassured. Washington is stunned. 2 carrier strike groups are currently positioned in the waters around the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. Hundreds of combat aircraft are forward deployed across bases in the Gulf states, Jordan, and the Eastern Mediterranean. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers have been sitting at Diego Garcia for weeks, fully loaded, engines warm. The United States built this entire military posture around one core assumption: that Iran's nuclear facilities would still be standing when it came time to either negotiate or destroy them. Tonight, that assumption is on fire, along with those facilities, and no one at the top of the American government has a clean answer for what the strategy looks like now. This is not a crisis with a clear villain and a clear victim. This is something rarer and far more dangerous. This is a crisis where nobody knows exactly what happened, and that uncertainty is, right now, the most dangerous force on the planet. Because here is what no headline is telling you yet, and this is the piece that completely changes how you understand everything that happens from this point forward. There are exactly 3 explanations for what happened tonight, 3 scenarios. And the one that turns out to be true will determine whether this conflict winds down in the coming weeks or explodes into something the Middle East has not seen in a generation. You need to understand all 3 before you can understand anything else. The first scenario, Iran did this itself. I know that sounds like the last thing a country would do, but stay with the logic for a moment. If Iran's leadership received intelligence, and they have capable intelligence networks, suggesting that a massive American or Israeli strike on their nuclear sites was coming within days, possibly within hours, a controlled destruction of the most sensitive equipment is actually the rational move. You deny the enemy a clean target. You scatter the material so it cannot be seized in a ground operation. You eliminate the risk of a radiation disaster that would turn your own people against you. You destroy what you built so that no one else can claim they destroyed it for you. And you send a message. There is nothing left here worth bombing. The program lives in the minds of our engineers, and you cannot bomb a mind. The second scenario, this was Israel. Israel has spent decades running covert operations inside Iran. In 2010, a computer virus silently destroyed over 1,000 Iranian centrifuges without a single shot being fired. In 2021, an explosion at the exact same Natanz facility was widely blamed on Israeli intelligence. Scientists involved in the nuclear program have been assassinated on Iranian streets in broad daylight. If tonight's explosions are Israeli in origin, this is something categorically different from all of that. This would represent a coordinated, simultaneous strike on multiple hardened sites, including one buried 90 meters beneath solid rock inside a mountain. That is not a covert operation. That is an act of war. The third scenario, something simply went wrong. Iran's nuclear facilities operate under extreme pressure. Advanced centrifuges spin uranium gas at incredible speeds. The entire infrastructure depends on replacement parts that Western sanctions have made nearly impossible to obtain legally. Safety systems that should be replaced have been kept running far beyond their intended lifespan. And the engineers, scientists, and technicians who built and understand this program have been hunted, poisoned, and shot for the better part of 15 years. An accident, a catastrophic cascading failure triggered by worn-out equipment and a skeleton crew working under impossible stress, was never a question of if. It was always a question of when. We do not know which of these three is true tonight. What we do know is that all three lead to the same place, a moment from which there is no going back. Before I push deeper into this, and we are about to go into the part of this story that the mainstream channels are not touching, I want to ask you something. If you are new to this channel, look at what we are doing here. We are not reading you a government statement. We are not picking a side and cheering. We are doing the hard work of walking you through what is actually happening, why it matters, and what it means for the world you live in. That kind of analysis takes time, and it takes your support. If you believe in it, hit that subscribe button right now. It is free. It takes 2 seconds. And it means the next time something this significant breaks, and something this significant will break again very soon, you will not miss it. Subscribe and let us keep going. Now let us talk about Washington, because the reaction inside the American government right now is not what anyone would have predicted. There is no victory lap. There are no press releases celebrating a weakened Iranian program. What there is instead is something that a senior defense analyst described to a colleague this week in 3 words: organized blind panic. Here is why those words make sense. The Trump administration built its entire Iran strategy around leverage, maximum pressure, crippling sanctions, a naval blockade, forward military deployment, was designed to force Iran to the negotiating table from a position of desperation rather than defiance. The credible threat of military force was the backbone of that leverage. The whole architecture only works if Iran believes that its nuclear facilities can be held at risk by American military power. If those facilities are now significantly damaged, destroyed from the inside, struck by Israel without American coordination, or collapsed through accident, the leverage disappears. You cannot threaten to bomb rubble. And the problem does not stop there. A damaged nuclear program is not a destroyed nuclear program. Iran still has its scientists. It still has its knowledge base. It still has whatever material was not destroyed in these explosions. A partial destruction of the program does not eliminate the nuclear threat. It potentially accelerates it, because a regime that feels it has nothing left to lose moves faster, not slower, toward whatever weapons capability it believes it still has access to. The National Security Council is now running scenarios that did not exist on any planning document 48 hours ago. And every single one of those scenarios ends in a harder, messier, more dangerous situation than the one they were already managing. This is the moment in the story where you need to pay very close attention, because what comes next is no longer a question of what might happen. It is a question of what Iran decides to do with the hand it has just been dealt. Let us talk about Israel first, because Israel's fingerprints are on this night, no matter what scenario turns out to be true. Israel operates under what is called the Begin Doctrine, named after the prime minister who ordered the destruction of Iraq's nuclear reactor in 1981. The doctrine is simple. You do not wait for a hostile nation to complete a nuclear weapon. You destroy the capability before it becomes a weapon. Every Israeli leader for the past 20 years has called a nuclear-armed Iran an existential threat, not a strategic inconvenience, not a diplomatic problem, an existential threat, the kind of threat that a country acts on even when the cost is enormous. If Israel was behind tonight's explosions, Tel Aviv is now asking one question, not whether to continue, but whether this was enough, or whether the moment has arrived to launch the comprehensive strike campaign that Israeli military planners have been rehearsing for years. The targeting is done, the flight paths are mapped, the refueling operations are planned. The decision that has held back that campaign has always been political, not military, and tonight the political calculation may have just shifted. Meanwhile, Iran is facing a choice that no government wants to face. Its economy has been destroyed by sanctions. Its military has absorbed serious losses. Its most important leaders have been killed. Its proxies across the region have been degraded. And now its nuclear program, the one asset it has always kept in reserve as the ultimate insurance policy, has been hit. In that situation, a government makes one of two choices. It decides that further resistance is pointless and comes to the table, or, and this is what is keeping people awake in Washington tonight, it decides that it has already lost everything it can afford to lose, and that the only move left is to escalate in a way that forces the world to pay attention. And this is where I need you to understand something that most coverage is missing entirely, because the next move Iran makes will not happen in a negotiating room. It will happen in a body of water 33 miles wide. If you want this channel to keep providing this level of analysis, raw, real, and without the spin, subscribe right now. We are building something here that only exists because of the people who support it. Join that group. And then hear me out on this last part, because this is where it gets real. The Strait of Hormuz is 33 miles wide at its narrowest point. 20% of all the oil consumed on Earth every single day moves through that strait. Iran does not need a nuclear weapon to close it. It needs mines, missile batteries, and the willingness to use them. And an Iran that feels cornered, humiliated, and stripped of its last strategic card is precisely the kind of Iran that reaches for that option. Iranian state media has been running footage of missile systems in recent days. IRGC commanders have been photographed in command centers at unusual hours. The language coming out of Tehran is not the language of a government looking for a way out. It is the language of a government preparing its population for something painful and telling them it was not their fault. Every oil trader on the planet is watching the Strait of Hormuz tonight. Every shipping company, every airline that prices its tickets against fuel costs. Every person who drives a car, heats a home, or buys anything that was moved by a truck or a plane. If that strait closes, even for 72 hours, the economic shockwave hits everyone. Not just the governments fighting this war, everyone. And the terrible irony at the center of all of this is that the explosions tonight, and whatever caused them, were supposed to make the situation less dangerous, remove the nuclear threat, reduce the stakes, create space for a deal. Instead, they may have done the opposite. They may have removed the one thing that was giving Iran a reason to hold back. Here is where this stands right now. The sites are damaged. The uncertainty is total. Washington is scrambling, Israel is calculating, Iran is deciding, and the world is somewhere between 24 and 72 hours from finding out whether tonight becomes a footnote or a turning point. We will stay on this story. Every update, every development, every piece of analysis that gives you a clearer picture of what is actually happening, it will be here. But before you go, I need you to leave me something in the comments, because this question has been sitting in my head through this entire broadcast, and I do not have a clean answer for it. If Iran destroyed parts of its own nuclear program to deny the enemy a target, if that is what happened tonight, does that actually make Iran more dangerous or less dangerous going forward? Think about it before you answer, because the answer is not obvious. And the answer tells you everything about what the next chapter of this war looks like. Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I will be back the moment the next development breaks. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and never let anyone do your thinking for you.